This is Criminal Justice in Italy by Jacquelyn Rankin. All about Italy. Italy is a country with a long Mediterranean coastline in the south-central part of Europe. The capital of this lovely country is Rome, which is very well known for its historical architecture. Also the country that looks like a boot. Italy has a large population of over 58,426,000 people, with the language spoken being Italian. Italy's economy. After being one of the weakest countries economy-wise in Europe after World War II, Italy now has one of the strongest and most powerful economies in Europe. In fact, the wealth in Italy in US dollars is about 3.8 trillion and is at number 9 for having the biggest economy in the world. The main reason behind the large economic growth is from Italy's services and manufacturing. Italy's standard of living. Italy's cost for standard of living is 16% lower than that of the United States. The rent in Italy is also 56.92% lower than rent in the United States. A single person's estimated monthly cost without rent is about $806 US, and a family of 4 is estimated to $2,837 US a month. The comparison to the United States is wild, with the cost of living in the United States for a single person being $3,189 US a month, and a family of 4 being $7,095 US a month. Italy's criminal justice system overview. In Italy, the Italian criminal justice system follows an adversarial system. The Italian judicial system consists of many courts and a body of civil servant judges. What is neat about Italy's criminal justice judicial system is that every part of the judicial process is all unified, with every court being a part of the same network. The judicial system in Italy is quite like America's system, though America uses common law and Italy uses civil law. The judicial functions in Italy is broken down into these areas: ordinary, civil, and criminal, administrative, accounting, military, and taxation. Administration of courts in Italy. In Italy's courts, the Ministry of Justice is the one in charge of all court administrations because of its functions, role, and relationship with the judiciary. The Ministry of Justice is the heart of the judicial system in Italy, unlike the United States, where it is the Supreme Court. The Ministry of Justice is put in place to maintain civil laws for everyone. Administration of courts. The organizational and administrative functions that the Ministry of Justice carries out has 2 levels: in the central structures and in the judicial offices, tribunals, courts, etc. Along with this, the administrative function is also responsible for people hired to work judicial services. At the top of the public prosecution offices and courts, there is the chief magistrate, who oversees the judiciary and has the final say in office decisions, and the court manager, who is the organization of public judicial services and internal assistance for judges and prosecutors. Italy's courts. Italy's courts are set up like so. In the first instance, there is the Justice of Peace, which are the honorary judges, and they hear minor cases. Next is the Courts of Tribunals. They hear serious cases. Next is the Penal Office, and they hear of cases in the first instance with criminal justice. And then finally, they have the Juvenile Court. Italy's courts in the second instance, there are court appeals. Next is the Penal Tribunals. This is the second instance courts in matters involving criminal justice, and then in the third instance, the Supreme Court with overall competence in final instance. Italy's courts. Inside the main tribunals are special sections. Corte d'Assise is a court that sits with 2 professional judges with 6 jurors. The jurors, like the United States, are chosen from a body of citizens. They serve for a short period of time and represent different groups of people and different sectors of their society in serious cases. The magistrates that play a role in public prosecutions, in the trials, and chief prosecutors of the first instance, their deputies, chief prosecutors in the second instance, along with their deputies, and the Attorney General for the Supreme Court. Now, this is Italy's courts. This is a chart of the hierarchy of courts. as you can see going down the line for the first degree, second degree, and infringement of law, and then across is civil jurisdiction, criminal jurisdiction, juvenile jurisdiction, and penal jurisdiction. Comparing Italy to the United States, courts. In the courts in Italy and America are set up in different ways. In Italy, the courts are split and divided into categories that best represents their specialty. These courts are civil courts, criminal courts, and administrative courts. In the United States, however, the courts are divided into trial courts, circuit courts, and the Supreme Court of the United States. Comparing Italy to the United States, courts. So, comparing Italy's courts to the United States, one thing that is vital to point out is that Italy has nothing like the federal courts in America. Instead, they have various tribunali, which is Italian for tribunal, which are in several districts, and Corte d'Appello in Italy. The last resort is Corte di Cassazione, a court that is very similar to the Supreme Court in America is the Corte Costituzionale, which is responsible for making sure all laws align with the Constitution. Comparing Italy to the United States, appeals. Both Italy and the United States have court appeals. In Italian courts and civil justice, there are two tiers that allow for the reconsideration of a court case that has already been decided. The first step in this process is that the courts must decide on the merits of the case. Secondly, the courts must decide if they want to follow through in requesting a change to the decision made by the court in the first instance. Finally, a further decision on the legitimacy of said case is allowed an appeal. This goes to the Court of Cassatone. Italian courts' effectiveness. While scrolling through many articles, it does not appear that the Italian courts nor their justice system are very effective. According to one article I found by Lawyer Monthly, the Italian courts and judicial system overall is not regarded as effective. This article states that the reason for this ineffectiveness is due to the backlog of cases and the large delay of civil and commercial proceedings. Though the civil and commercial proceedings have gotten better, the backlog still stands. These are my references. Along with these, thank you for listening to my presentation.